I love it. I'm gonna have to hire these guys, I think. So, welcome back, everyone. I got a live stream going on with Soaring Prophets Media. I got Patrick and James here, and we connected maybe about a month ago. Maybe you guys reached out to me. We did something for your guys' channel, and I said, "Man, I gotta get these guys back because they are growing rapidly, and I want to know the secrets to their success." So, welcome, guys.
Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it, pal. It was a lot of fun having you on Financial Fitness, one of the shows that we have on the Soaring Profits Media Group. And that's sort of a little bit where we start, I guess. So Soaring Profits kind of grew out of this hatred of myself and James. We were colleagues, worked together for years and never liked each other. And all of a sudden we find ourselves in the situation where we're starting to grow on each other. COVID, we're supposed to be nice to everybody. Everyone's supposed to come together. And it was at the most decisive time in history the last few years. You couldn't have an opinion. You couldn't say what you thought. And James and I are like, no. We're going to bridge this gap. We're going to come together. And we started going out, grabbing a beer. We'd sit down in a pub and we'd be doing our talk. We'd be, we're a little bit different on politics. I'm kind of the finance guy, own a bunch of multifamily properties. And James is a little bit more the touchy-feely guy. He's a motivator, lost a bunch of weight, that sort of thing. And then we would have people come up to us in the pub and be like, "You guys are really animated. Are you okay?" And we have 20, 30 people that would end up with us by the end of the night, having a few drinks. James and I would be hooting and hollering, chatting with each other. And then we'd get up, shake hands, see you tomorrow, buddy. And people, they couldn't understand how you could have such a heated debate, a topic that, is really kind of controversial, fleshing it out, and then get up and like hug, walk away, see you tomorrow, brother. And that was sort of this light bulb moment for us. Well, maybe we put a camera in front of us and we do it with Soaring Profits. And that's where our brand was born. I do the Financial Fitness show. James does the Soaring Profits. And now we've been about a year and a half doing the podcast. Really kind of started taking it seriously in around September, October of last year. Now growing on YouTube to about 25, 30,000 views a month, continuing to grow and trying to, have fantastic people like yourself, Mark, and seeing what's next for us as we go along this journey. But James,
I completely agree. I hate that guy. Like, he is the worst. No. In the beginning, kind of at work, we would be on opposite sides of everything. And because we're both strong leaders, we often would be, fighting against each other. But what we noticed was, even though we did that, it was always in a respectful, kind way. And then we noticed other things that we both value family. We both value loyalty. We both value trust. The people around us, once you are around us, we will back you. We will fight for you. We will do everything there is in our power to help you out. And that kind of interlocking bind really brought us together to a strong, like, he is much, much younger than me. I'm an old man. I'm almost in a walker. And what happened is we just kind of grew this amazing friendship. And through that friendship, I decided that we should do a podcast because, like Pat said, people gathered around us. People wanted to hear what we were saying. They would get into the conversation. They got excited about it. They got really angry about it. Sometimes there would be tears. And when we left the table, they would be still yelling at each other. It was the most interesting time. And then we started this podcast, and it's grown from two guys just with opinions to now we're trying to showcase, like on the show that he's talking about, Soaring Profits behind me here. What we're trying to do is showcase people who have gone through stuff, people who have overcome big darkness, and now they're on that other side and they're helping others to get there. Some great stories, like a gentleman who was sexually assaulted when he was a young boy. Now he's helping men through group work. We just Mrs. American down in America. She unfortunately suffered breast cancer, survived that after a lot of effort and energy and hard work, and then became Mrs. American. We've had people who have lost their business through COVID, and then started a brand new business, like family businesses lost through COVID and then started a new business. And the whole idea is that there are so many people hurting right now. There's so many people down on their luck. There's so many people in that dark, deep depression. And I want them to know that there's a future. If you can keep on moving forward, you're going to find a light. And so that's what we do on the Soaring Prophets side of it. And yeah, I'm a little touchy-feely, but I also am a motivator. Like I've lost 152 pounds. I'm now a marathon runner. This weekend, actually, I'm doing my first Spartan race, which is kind of running and going over walls and climbing ropes. And Pat won't do it with me, but it's okay. Apparently,
I don't need to do that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what interests me is, have you guys got into any fist fights? That's what I want to know. So you guys said you hate each other, got into arguments. Was there any fist thrown though?
So we haven't got into fist fights, but I'll let Pat tell the stories.
So Mark, it's funny you say that, and it's sort of like this trauma bonding experience that James and I have had, because again, we go out in public. James is 6'4", I'm 6'1" and a little bit. We're not little guys. So we would go out and we would be having these conversations out in a pub, that sort of deal. And there's been multiple instances where all of a sudden we find ourselves in situations where guys want to take a shot at us. And it was this bonding piece where James and I are both kind of like,
no,
that's my buddy.
Yeah.
Right. So where before we might have been very diametrically opposed in our views, but when that outside source walks in and is like, screw you, man. It's like, nah, it's my brother. We got this now. So those sorts of things, it's never come to blow with James and I. We're Canadians, Mark. We would never. We could just
gonna
ask. In fact, to be honest,
we could never.
It has never come to blows ever. Like even there's been, I don't know, 10 or 12 situations where someone has either wanted to fight me or Pat. And because of who we are, we don't want to fight. It's not like we're looking for a fight. We like verbal debates. We don't like physical fights. We're not into it. If we need to, we would. Yeah. But because we're both such good talkers, we have talked ourselves out of like these situations to a point, Mark, that there have been times at the end of us, this guy wants to punch us. He's like wound it up. He is sitting beside us going, I don't know what's going on in my life, man. I like, I'm so sorry. Like, I just, sometimes I just need someone to talk to, and, I get angry. And it's just this odd thing that we do that, although we can rile some people up, we also can calm them down. And that is really who we are. We don't want to cause conflict, but we want people to know that conflict can happen. And you should be able to talk about any topic, no matter who you are. You should be able to have a voice at the table, because when all those voices are at the table, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's when change happens. Right. Because if you don't have everyone sitting at the table, you just have two parties yelling at each other across a divide that will never be breached. You can't, it doesn't matter what the topic is. We are so division politics right now. It drives me crazy. If these people just sat at the table, they would find out we want families to do well. We want to work and eat and be happy. So we can make anything work. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah, maybe you're not going to get everything you want, but you'll get a lot of things you want, because on the whole, people do not care. They want you to live your life, so you can come across that divide. And that's a big thing that we do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's why there was such a great connection when you guys had me on your guys' show. I just felt like there's this kind of playfulness, but also kind of trying to help people. And there's kind of, everything was on the table, right? We could say whatever we wanted. There was no holding back. And I love that. I enjoyed that time spending with you guys. And I thought, hey, we got to connect again. I'd love to do some lives with you folks. But let's dig into maybe, you have Soaring Prophets. And, I don't want to get too much into the real estate or financial side. I want to get more into that kind of your brand. Like, how are you guys growing this brand so quickly, and what's the strategy behind that?
Well, so a big thing for us, Mark, is doing exactly what we're doing here with you, that kind of cross-pollination of brands, right? So for us, like, this is going into our group of people, and our audience is looking for us at 9:00 tonight. They're going to be like, hey, where the hell are you? Why are you guys here 3 hours early again? Like, what's going on? And when we first started, James came to me and said, "Hey, buddy, I think we should do this podcast." And I said, "Absolutely not." Like, and it was just flat. I'm not doing it. I have no time. I have no energy. I'm not doing this with you at all. Right. And then it was probably 2.5 years before he just put the phone down beside us and clicked play and said, "We're just going to talk." And that moment when we played it back, I said, it's not bad. Right. Okay. Maybe we have something here. People enjoy hearing our bullshit banter, and maybe there is something here. And then all of a sudden, we came onto StreamYard, shouted to StreamYard. I was saying to Mark, they pay us, so I will shout them out as often as possible. Thanks, StreamYard. Hashtag go StreamYard. But what we found was there's a whole group of podcasters where they do one show a month. They might do it video. They might do it audio only. And they do their one show a month and they garner their little corner, right? And then there's Joe Rogan. And there's not a whole lot in between, right? Like, we end up in a situation where a lot of the entertainment hours that are out there, you're going to the big shows. You're going to the mass media effect shows. So what we focused on is we tried to, and again, we're new in the game, but we looked at partnering ourselves with brands that were like-minded, right? So we took our Soaring Prophets show and we ended up doing RSI, which was a recovery speaking initiative where we went down and it was a big mental health push in regards to sexual assault survivors. And we went down and did a 3.5-hour panel interview. We did individual interviews and we talked about that softer side of recovery. Then on the flip side of that, we had a physician in Brazil who was talking about COVID and was talking about how the world was interacting with COVID. Very different things, very all over the place type branding, but each one of those audiences was very unique, very specific to their own piece, but brought an audience that we can communicate with. You had individuals that are looking for the mental health piece. You had individuals that were looking at the physical health piece. And then we started bringing in other brands. So we do a show, I do a show, financial fitness. James does all the production. He does all the fancy stuff like you see around here. He makes it also all look really good. But when we brought financial stuff into it, we started opening ourselves to a whole new world of opportunities. So when we come on a show like Mark, your viewers are going to take a look at this today. They're either going to go, "Hey, that asshole from Canada either knows what he's talking about or he doesn't. I'll like, subscribe, maybe share this, or I won't." And hopefully you will. But yeah. That's how you start to create these traction, these cross-platform pieces. And for us, that allowed us to level up very quickly. And again, when you're looking at a 1.5 years in the podcast business, about 9 months sort of taking it seriously to grow to that 30,000 a month-ish views, it's been kind of a wild ride. And now we're being asked to take on projects. So we're doing Empower Youth with the University of Iowa, with the Brighton app. We have Healthcare Amplified, where we went down to Orlando, Florida, did a big healthcare presentation down there in regards to interviewing the companies. Like, we're talking about like Leukemia Lymphoma Association of America, Mrs. American, like James was saying. We have all of these different platforms that are reaching out to us because of the way that we interview, the softer side of the interview, but also we can be very on brand messaging with the corporate branding, but also let's peel the onion back a little bit to get to the personal story. And that's what James and I really pride ourselves on, is being able to do that. Get people's stories. And that's sort of what we did with financial fitness, Mark. Like, when we had you on, we talked about your why a little bit. We talked about, being a firefighter was a great income, but it might not always be there. And you guys went through it. You folks with COVID, am I going to do certain things to create this lifestyle, or do I want to diversify? And those stories, everyone can touch. When you're like, "Hey, I want to go buy a bunch of houses," people are like, "Well, doesn't everybody? Everyone wants a Lambo in the driveway," but everyone can sort of touch the why. And that's where we've found a lot of traction.
Yeah. And I think we have traction with these businesses because, one, we are the whole package. Like, we can do graphics, we can do videos, we can do backgrounds, and we also can interview in such a style that we reach the story behind the story. Like, it's great for you to sell Pepsi, but who's selling Pepsi? And, you know, to a big salesman, like anyone who's a salesman knows that the number one thing you need is trust. Trust first. You know, if someone trusts you, then they will hear your pitch. If someone doesn't trust you, they're not going to even listen. They don't hear. So if we can tell the stories of those businesses, so like we just did this hot sauce, and we actually had a lot of fun with the hot sauce guy, Purple Tongue Hot Sauce, shout out. We did kind of like a hot wings thing where we invited 6 of our podcasting friends, and we did, while answering questions, we ate nuclear hot sauce that my body has still not recovered from. We did 6 different hot sauces on 6 different wings. It was the worst experience of my life. I will never do it again. Yeah. But while we did that, we were, you know, before that, we told his story, which was during COVID, his bingo business went out of business, and it was his family business. It's something that he had cherished and loved. And instead of giving up, which he could have, right? That's what a lot of people did. I know people right now that their businesses are still closed and the doors are closed. They have no way of selling it to anyone because no one's buying them. And there's no next steps. He pivoted completely. He just went, you know what? I'm going hot sauce. You know, I make this in my kitchen. People seem to like it. And now he has a growing business. And fortunately, during that, we were able to link him up with one of the markets. And that market was able to sell some of his hot sauce. So like, people like what we're doing because we're approachable. We're no bullshit. We'll talk about anything. And we're heart. Like, we are the heart source of the story. And I think that's a big component to why we've gotten traction. There is so many shows out there right now that are all about got you, and it drives me crazy. I hate got you. I don't want to watch another person hand a homeless person a sandwich and then take it away, or watch, you know, someone who's having a meltdown, or watch, you know, those shows where men are like berating young ladies because, you know, they have OnlyFans or something. Sure, great, entertaining, but how's that helping our society? I want to grow our society. I don't want to destroy our society. So that's a big component of where Soaring Prophets is. And, you know, now we're kind of leaning into making podcasts for other people. We got a couple of podcasts coming down the pike. We had a game show that we're right in the middle of producing. We have another financial show that we're producing. And then there's talks about some other businesses that might be asking us to produce some shows. So that's kind of where our growth is going, through this word of mouth, through the connections we're making with people, because each time we have an interview, that interview leads us to like 10 other interviews, or just maybe 10 connections. And those connections are huge sometimes.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit. So like, if you had someone starting today, what advice would you give to them? Would you tell them to focus on one niche kind of thing, or would you have them kind of branch out? Like, you folks are, like you said, you're spreading your wings, having these other opportunities. Would you focus on one thing first?
So in my opinion, it depends what you're doing, right? Like, it really does. Like, so for instance, there's a guy, and it's wild that I even watch this, but like, my mind, right? The guy makes homemade beer, right? So he makes home brew beer out of the most random bullshit, whatever he can find around his house. Basically, this guy's making beer, and he has hundreds of thousands of views. Like, I come to James and I'm like, dude, the guy adds a pack of yeast to Mountain Dew and he's got 400,000 views in 12 hours. Like, what sort of nipple do I have to show to get 400,000 views here? Like, what are we doing wrong? Yeah. But like, that is such a super niche market that he should never leave that. Don't start a financial show.
But my answer to that is that will last for a while.
Right.
But then people will get tired of it. And that's why I don't think that's an effective approach.
Right.
That's right.
So my thing is that whatever you're passionate about, go do that. So yes. Soaring Prophets started, our passion was that we wanted to have these controversial conversations and show people that you can do it. You don't have to hate your neighbor because they vote red and you vote blue, or vice versa, and whatever. You can all sort of just get along, have a community.
What do you mean you don't have to hate them?
No, don't tell me that it isn't that way. It's crazy right now.
It is totally true. And you don't have to. Like, no. I don't hate that guy, even though he doesn't know how to vote.
I appreciate that. That's good. But for us, it's like find your passion, find your niche within your passion, right? And that's where Soaring Prophets started. Then, and to be totally transparent, I'm not a touchy-feely guy. James is. I love James now. He's like a brother, right? But like I could only do so many hours a week of talking about like a young woman's poetry book that she made. And like she's lovely and I really enjoyed her as a person. I can't do it, man. So that's where these STEM offs have been. And it's been great. We have a lot of fun and we can keep that energy. We're always informational, right? Wherever you catch us in that process. The show we just did, we were talking about a mortgage broker here in Canada, and she's very concerned about the Canadian market, talking about real estate. She's very concerned. She's like, I'm seeing people walking through the door. They're upside down in their home equity line of credits. They have no equity built into their homes. They paid $1 million for a property a year ago. It's now worth 8.5. They're upside down, and they got a $1,200 a month truck payment, and it's renewal time. We do our mortgages very different in Canada. We are up against a very big tailwind, but we do it in an educational kind of fun way that it's appealing and people are engaging with it. And that's where I think YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, they're becoming our information centers, not only just our education centers. So if you can have a fun, informative message, we don't sell anything, right? Like I joke about StreamYard, but like we don't sell anything. We just tell stories and give information away and showcase amazing people like yourself. That's our shtick.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're very careful about what we do. Like, even though we'll talk about anything, we'll do anything, we're not trying to push agendas at no point. In fact, on Financial Fishness, we talk at first about, we know you have a business, but it's not about pushing your business. At the end, you'll get to say everything you want about how to get in contact with you. But we're trying to help people learn more about finance. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to sell something. Same on Soaring Prophets. There's a lot of people that come on that have a book they want to sell or whatever. We'll get to that, but that's not what we want to talk about. We want to talk about your story and share. But to answer your question a little bit, Pat's absolutely right. Go with where your heart is. If you can't fake it. You cannot fake this. Joe Rogan does well because he does not fake anything. He talks the hard talks too, right? He talks about anything. He talks to people he absolutely loathes, right? And he's able to do that. But if you're not able to do that, don't do that. If you like want to talk about puppies because it comes through the camera.
And
whatever it is. Sorry?
The burnout.
Yes. Yes.
Like it's such a huge thing. If you're talking about, again, if it was me at home talking about you brew beer, dude, we would get 2 shows and then I'd never ever come back. Right? That would be it. And and I talk about burnout in the way that, James and I are super, we're very lucky because we play off each other's energy. When James is, manic and like flying, we're doing this, and this, I'm like, whoa, easy, son. And then on the vice versa, when I'm like, oh, it's a great idea, we got to do this, he's like, shut up. Like, relax, brother. Yeah. We'll get there. But the hardest part in this business is when you click play and you put a live out there and you get 3 views and you're like, that was my best show yet.
Yeah.
Why did it not go anywhere? To get up the next day, put on your pants again and go click play again.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. That is a big thing, is that you just keep on going. Yeah. Your audience will find you. Like for a long time, Pat and I talked to ourselves and maybe a couple of our friends that were kind enough to watch. Yeah. It wasn't until, like you said, what was 7 months ago, like we would have 200 or 300 people that would watch our shows up until about 7-8 months ago. And then we hit the numbers we're hitting now, which are much better. And then we've got more opportunities because of it. It's a lot of work. If you want to do a show well, you either have to have a lot of money. So like my good friend Sia, she makes shows for people, high-end shows, like high-end shows. Brilliant Beam Media. If you have a lot of money and you want to do a show with someone, I highly recommend Sia at Brilliant Beam Media. She's amazing, but it's going to cost you, right? If you want to do a show through Soaring Prophets Media, right? We'll do it. but it's going to cost you. Fortunately, Pat knows the financial side, because there's a huge financial curve. If I did not have Pat, I would not know how to do all the things that we need to do financially. There is a lot of stuff that we have to do financially to run this podcast. But conversely, Pat doesn't know how to do any of the graphics, any of the videos, like, he wouldn't even be able to run this StreamYard right now, right? But I know how to do that.
I just show up.
We don't have that problem. Like, we don't have to pay anyone to get our product out, right? So you really just have to know that beforehand. This seems easy. It seems like click, play, go. And to a certain extent, if you just want to show and you just want to talk with your buddies, absolutely, that's what you can do. But if you want a show that's going to go somewhere, you need the graphics, you need the SEO, which Pat can get into, because he knows more about that. See, that's his wheelhouse. That's not mine. Mine is like, I take a client and I sit down with them and I talk colors and I talk graphics and I talk logos and I talk like that. But then he gets into the meeting about SEOs and stuff, and I'm like, I'm right out cold. But there's just a lot to it if you want to be successful. There's a learning curve that you have to either have someone like Soaring Prophets Media to help you in all those aspects, because we know it, or you have a long learning curve.
So this is actually your folks' full-time job now, because you guys met. You said you had another job before this, or is that how you guys met? Or
no,
we still do.
Yeah. So again, same thing. This is the
okay.
This is the side hustle. So again, full-time finance, that sort of thing, multifamily real estate. This has just been this labor of love that's sort of come along financially rewarding of late. There was a lot of money put out up front in doing this. This is sort of like buying a Domino's pizza franchise with no Domino's sign on the logo, right? You're kind of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this until you start to see that return. And for us, we're lucky. We're sort of financially independent ourselves, just with what we've done in our past. So it allows us the time. Right. And I think that's the hardest thing. So I'm a single father. I've got a 14-year-old daughter. I'm more or less, I'm able to make my schedule around what we need to do. But if I didn't have James, that would be a time commitment that I couldn't do, and vice versa. Right. It's such a two-way street for us to meander. But for us, like, the big thing that we're into now is looking at these deals. For instance, Healthcare Amplified, we went down to Orlando, Florida, did a whole presentation with them, did a bunch of interviews. And then now we're looking at the organizations. So we're in a process of putting together a deal with Todd Uri from the Pharmacy Podcast. He's got Pfizer, the FDA. He's got all these guys that are now on his platform. Like, when the federal government is coming to you as the platform for messaging, you're doing okay. And those are the negotiations and the deals and the platforms that we're pushing to right now with Soaring Prophets and doing work with them. And then that allows us to get in front of organizations like Pfizer, Kaiser Permanente, as far as the health insurance side of things. So we're now in the process of building this upwardly, getting into these larger negotiated contracts to do network effect marketing. So whether it be the podcast, the Pharmacy Podcast, whether it be directly with Healthcare Amplified, some of our other partner services that we work with as well, they're able to come on our show. We work within their shows, and we have this network effect of platforms that these bigger brands want to embrace. And our piece of that at Soaring Prophets is, come in, your Kaiser Permanente. You want to come in, we're going to tell you your story. We're not going to fly the drone around your headquarters. We want to talk to your front desk person about why they love working with you. Then I want to talk to one of your clients about why we continue to pay your premiums every month. Then I want to take your CEO and your CFO, and I want to go, why did you apply here? Don't tell me your balance sheet. Tell me why you applied here 15 or 20 or 35 years ago, because this was going to be an organization that you wanted to work within. Don't tell me your financials. Don't tell me how you're going to help people today. Tell me why you do this. And that's our messaging right now. And that's where our traction from small, like we got a project that we're working on in a couple of weeks here. We're going to the Toronto Humane Society. So Toronto, one of the biggest cities in Canada. We're about an hour outside of there. They've asked us to come and do exactly this, showcase us. And I'm like, I'm not doing the dogs in the cage, sad music, give us $5 a month, right? We want to come and we want to interview a board member. We want to come and interview one of the volunteers that's there on a Tuesday afternoon. Maybe somebody that's, special needs that you folks have helped change their world because that's what they're doing, right? Like they get to come there and walk dogs and interact with people. Then once we establish why this is neat, what's your sell? What's your pitch? Right? Tell me then. We can get to that. But if it's just, this is our brand, this is our corporate brand structure, this is our brand messaging, nobody gives a shit. Dig deeper. And that's what we're trying to do.
So let's dig into the SEO side
Yep.
that James mentioned, because I'm a big follower of Michael Zuber. he's going to be two of us on here after this, but I'm a big follower of Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, and he's very big right now on promoting a lot of his audience or followers to go, like you guys said, go out, follow your passion, start a brand, start a YouTube channel, put what you're doing out there. So can you maybe talk about like the SEO side and how that might help someone get their channel started?
Yeah. So SEO, search engine optimization, like it doesn't matter whatever you did on your phone, your computer, maybe your TV, to watch us here today, you're being tracked and you're being monitored by whatever source or platform you're on. So us as content creators, we have the opportunity to sort of hack into your movements, your tendencies when it comes to that. So if you searched anything short of Marco Shiro, financial firefighter today, if you were just looking up financial problems or financial help, you probably didn't get Mark your first time, right? There's 50,000 people that produce content, and the algorithm is shaking through all those people constantly, trying to provide content that you will click on and you will engage with as long as possible. Okay. So what we do, and I don't know, maybe you can tell by some of the high energy that we bring to a conversation, we do this purposefully to keep listeners listening, right? If we just have the finance talk about mortgages and we think that bond yields are going up over the next 5 years and you all went to bed, nobody cares, right? But when we do our search engine optimization, there's keywords that we look at. Then we look at the behaviors of our clientele. So once we finish this show, this goes out live. It has our description. It has hashtags. It has all of these things. And the more that we can zoom into the niche, right? You don't have to create the beer in your bathtub, right? You don't have to create a bathtub mint julep channel, but you can take a big channel and hone it in, right? You can hone in on a specific stock, right? There's huge shows about Palantir, for instance. There's huge shows about Apple or Tesla that they're just Tesla fanboys. Well, they talk about the greater market impact. They're talking about macroeconomics, but they focus it all through the lens of Tesla's going to crash. Oh no, click here. And that's what James sort of talked about a little bit earlier, is that we don't want to get into the gotcha shit. That's not our niche. But those are tools that people use to get that frontline imaging, get in front of their audience at a quicker, faster pace. And that's where SEO is super important. Yeah, GME, right? So you have all of these platforms that are continuing to do this, but is it sustainable? You have to have the content. You can get the click, but you have to have something that brings them back. And that's where we're Soaring Profits. We have the financial show. We have our Soaring Profits show. We've got a game show coming up. We've got all of these other, secondary and tertiary offerings that if you don't like this one, you're probably going to like this one. If you don't like that one, we got 9 more. Give us a week. We'll have another one for you. And that's that exponential factor where you're putting out a shit ton of content that is going to catch a very broad net. And it's kind of that networking effect.
And part of that is how you describe the episode. Like you have to use the key words that are what's hot right now to describe your episode. You're not lying about your show, but you find the keywords that fit, that go in your episode, because that's what people are searching for. And that's how they're going to find you. Because like Pat said, when they search, they're not going to search up Soaring Prophets. It's unlikely. They might, because we're pretty huge in some places of the world. But they might look up finances, or they might look up personal growth, or they might look up, those key like buzzwords, and that's in our description, so that when they look it up, they'll find us, and our hashtags as well. And that's a big part of that SEO as well.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's going to help a lot of my audience, because a lot of guys are trying to just get started. They're trying to get that first to 1,000 subscribers. But I noticed you folks, so you guys are on Instagram, you guys are also on X, but it seems that your big focus is on YouTube. Is that by design?
100%. Yeah.
Yes.
So for us, so Facebook is like, old man James platform over there, right? So
Oh yeah.
Mark, yeah. Do you use Facebook?
Come on.
Nah, not really.
Exactly. Right? No one does. Like, it's not a thing.
You
right?
use it to keep in touch with your family now.
Yeah.
Or like that woman from high school that you're like, I really enjoy dating her and I want to see what she's doing. That's all you use it for. Like, really.
Did that come out of nowhere, or was that been brewing for a while?
That's a thing that people talk. So people talk about it. Yeah, whatever. Like, you haven't looked up Dorothy from your high school back in the day. You have.
I'm just zipping on it. I don't know. Long story short, Facebook is not a platform we were targeting because of the demographics of our viewership, right? Instagram it's so clickbaity, right? Like, we put a lot of short content out there, but we really don't work to grow our audience. For us, YouTube is a platform that is very much becoming an educational entertainment platform in the areas of what we're doing. You can go on YouTube and you can literally find anything. You want to build a deck? Go to YouTube. They'll show you how to build a deck. You want to replace your carburetor on your lawnmower? Go to YouTube. They'll show you how to do that. So what we're saying is that let's use it as an opportunity to create a financial wellness aspect as well as a personal wellness aspect. And the use of reels and shorts and all of those sorts of things allows us to take our long form content, cut it down into the 30 and 60-second clips, and proliferate our views out there in a way that putting a long form Facebook post never did. Right? Like, we're going to go an hour here likely today. The viewer base that's going to sit for an hour and give us their ear, there's not a lot of that. Like, the Joe Rogan, right? He gets Mark Zuckerberg on, interviews him for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and you kind of listen for the 2 hours because you're waiting for that little piece of gold. Who else are you going to listen to their conversation for 2 hours? Like, that's the piece. We want to be informational, educational, fun, but also understanding that we're playing to an audience that their attention span is about 15 to 20 minutes while they're cooking food for the kids. That's your audience. That's who you're nailing. Instagram is not necessarily that niche because they're not going to stay for 20 minutes. X is not really that niche because they're not going to stay there for 20 minutes. YouTube is. I got you for 20 minutes. I want you for 20 minutes. Sit down for 20 minutes. That's kind of why we focus there.
So what we do is we use so every time we do like this show, we're going to break it up into little shorts, and then we put that on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and there's short little informative like nuggets of information, and then we draw them back to our YouTube show. So that you see it, you're like, what, that's kind of some great information. I want to know more, and then they pop back into YouTube, and like Pat said, YouTube is where people will sit and watch a show. That's the place I sit and watch a show. TikTok and all those others, that's just for scanning when you have 15 minutes at the doctor's office, right? It's not what you're going to do for afternoon. But I have found more and more, and especially now with like TV is just not what it used to be, right? even Netflix is becoming too expensive. You have to have Netflix, Disney. You have to have all of these shows.
Yeah.
You have to have all these platforms now, and you're actually paying more than what you used to pay back in the day when you just bought a package from like your good old cable network, and everyone's buying it. But I think now, because like Netflix is saying, well, you can't share it with your family. I have a kid that's 2 hours away drive and a 2 hour flight away. I was sharing my Netflix account with them because they're my family. That should be allowed. I paid the six, or I think it's like 4 to 6 people price. I wasn't ripping them off. This was my family, and they cut my kids off. And I'm like, I'm out. I'm not paying you if I can't share it with my family. I'm not being evil. I'm not sharing it with Pat. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and you're cutting me off, right? That was the whole point of having Netflix. Well, people are going to start, I know I did, and I know people around me are like, yeah, I just cut off Netflix. Well, where are you going to turn to once all of these are shut down? You're going to turn to YouTube, because that is the platform, and YouTube knows that. And YouTube has been doing things recently to amp that up. Like Pat could talk about the store that they're kind of building, and some other things that are really interesting.
Yeah. So like YouTube is an alphabet company, right? So we're looking at Google at the end of the day. So everything that you guys are doing on here, as far as this platform, you have to look at YouTube as a search engine. That's all it is. They're looking at you as if you were Bill's Plumbing, and how many clicks, how many views, how many, all that sort of thing. The more you get, the higher we rank you up in our system. Well, Google is a publicly traded company. You can go on and watch the earnings calls. You can go and listen and read their 10Qs and find where they're moving to. There is there's no secret sauce to what YouTube is wanting to be, right? And Google needs YouTube. Google in and of itself, with the dawning of AI, and we can really get into the finance stuff because I love this shit. But I don't know if your audience kind of glazes over at what point. But
No,
like,
I think that, nah, look at it, James. You sure you
James,
guys are
right?
friends?
I know, right? That's the thing. So
Yep.
Google, if you think about what AI is going to do to search engines and search results, Google's core business is at risk in a very big way. So why am I going to pay you for search results when I'm now going to go, hey, I won't say it because all your phones will start binging, but hey, AI, tell me the best restaurant in Toronto for sushi. Well, I'm not going to Google anymore. Like, ChatGPT uses Bing, all of these other sources use different platforms, right? So you have a major attack on the core business concept of Google. Well, now you have to pivot your core business model from Google. I'm not saying Google's going to zero, but they're going to have to put money into infrastructure in other capacities. So YouTube, their education platform, is allowing them a front client-facing entity that they can do this. And they had the monetization that they were offering content creators over the last 5 years was wild. You could make a lot of money doing it. And Google now is saying, okay, listen, we realize that we're probably going to go through some sort of, economic pullback, slowdown, marketing budgets are getting constrained. So we're going to pull back and realize that content creators are going to take a little bit of a hit here, but we're going to do everything we can to help you with secondary, tertiary solutions. You can have stores, you can sell products, you can do all of these things directly tied into your brand, where before you had a channel, you could click play and it was go. They're providing 1,001 different ways now to monetize. And if you're small, you need to try to get to those platforms as quick as possible. That 1,000, the 1,000 views, the 4,000 hours viewed, those sorts of metrics. Once you get to those metrics, then you're in a position where you start to be able to make these check boxes. Once you start those check boxes, now you hit a new level. Google will put your stuff out to the public more readily because they're going to make money off of you. They can place the ads on you and they're going to make money off of you. You're going to have premium services that you're going to provide your customers and they're going to make money off of you. And that's where you get this laddering effect that it's sort of, it's a bit of a dam. Once it breaks, you sort of have this rapid flow. And keeping that moving, that's the hard part, is the next and the next and the next. You want to keep breaking down those barriers.
I love it. So do you guys do anything as far as like Amazon affiliate links on your guys' channels and things, or is it just strictly like you're saying YouTube, the Soaring Profit side? Do you guys have any other side hustles type of things going on?
So we haven't up until date, but that was something that for a period of time was
We
an
looked into.
avenue that we were looking to go down.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we didn't go that way, and I won't say that we won't potentially end up going that way, is that in Canada, the Amazon business is very different than the United States Amazon business. So the way that our corporate entities are structured here to try to deal with a predominantly American market was different. And it was going to take us to establish entities in the States. We were just, hang on a second. I'm not saying it won't happen. There's lots of opportunities to do that sort of thing. And it's just, we haven't yet.
It also hasn't broken Canada. Like if you're Canadian, it's harder to do this Amazon affiliate link channel that you're talking about. We have had, I believe, one that we negotiated with a little bit, affiliate broker, we'll call them, who had affiliates, like a list of affiliates. Unfortunately, we're very choosy, right? We don't want to be linked with something like diet pills. We don't want to be linked with those things that we aren't behind, because that's who we are. We're loyal, we're honest, and we're full of heart. And I am not going to pitch to because we call our people that watch us every week, they're our profiteers, and we mean that. They can DM me anytime and I'll respond to them. In fact, there's a couple of people that I talk to and I help them out when I can. If they're feeling low, Pat, financially, he gets DMs a lot that he will give advice, not advice that you should go do it, but this is where we're at right now. Make an informed choice. But so we don't want to promote the wrong thing. We could have, like, I think they approached us a month and a half ago. Yeah. And some of the deals that he came up with, we got money up front, like some good money up front.
Very lucrative deals. A lot of, and again, with like the financial side of things, Mark, like the crypto type product services out there, they had a very compelling business case for us. And we sort of looked at them and we're like, we're too new to go out there and hang our hat on an FTX that is just, it's not a real thing. We're not going to do it. So I'm not saying, like, if there's anyone out there listening and you think that you like the brand of what Soaring Prophets is doing, give us a call, approach us. Like, you're obviously all liking, subscribing, and sharing. That's how this goes. You're checking all out our platform with Soaring Prophets stuff, right? And vice versa with Mark. But the big thing for us is that when somebody comes and chats with us, we're pretty frank and honest guys. Like, we're not gonna call you an asshole. We're gonna hear what you're saying and kind of weigh what it is. We just haven't had that home run experience yet where it's like, that one there, like, that makes a lot of sense to us. Like, James really wants a coffee brand. I don't know why.
I do. Yeah. I want Soaring Profits coffee. I don't even want to. I don't want a coffee brand. Like, I don't want to promote Maxwell. I want someone to come. If you're out there watching this show right now and you make coffee, you roast good coffee. Don't give me that shit. I don't want the crap. I want the good coffee, French press style, yum yum. Yeah. You approach us, slap our Soaring Profits label on it. I'll sell the crap out of that, because coffee is in my blood. I drink. If you're Canadian, you'll understand. I drink about 8 extra larges coffees a day, and they're like buckets. So I couldn't even tell you how many pots that would be, but it's insane the amount of coffee. And I'll have a coffee right now. As soon as we're done this, I'm going to go have a coffee and then I'll go to bed. Coffee and me have a relationship. So if you're out there and you want to sell some coffee, I'm the man to do it. I've lost 150 pounds on coffee. So
you guys are changing all my views on Canadians. Like that. This is not.
We're doing it one podcast at a time, pal. Changing the world.
We have a good friend, Mark, who's Zen Master. Check him out. He has some great podcasts, great advice. He calls us assholes. He said, I didn't know Canadians were assholes until I met you two.
He's in Japan. You got to preface that. Yeah, he's in Japan. So.
Well, like I said, when you guys had me on your channel, I loved it. And I thought there was a great vibe and connection. And that's why I wanted to have you folks on. And, before we wrap things up, though, I kind of want to maybe dig into it a little bit. But, you're talking about Canada and stuff like that. Like, do you see the also the same division in Canada as we're seeing in the US right now? And like, do you guys follow like the whole Trump Biden from where you folks are? Do you guys follow that type of stuff?
So Trump and Biden for us is like the best reality TV show you can get. You have Biden, and I'm sorry if you love him, but he has Alzheimer's. I'm sorry, he does. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what he's doing.
That's the show, folks. Canceled.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Trump just doesn't listen to himself when he's talking because he's an egomaniac and he doesn't know when to stop talking and he shoots himself in the foot. And then you have the media that is trying to stir up this, I don't know, frenzy on both, because every time Trump talks, it makes them a pile of money. Every time Biden falls down, it makes them a pile of money, right? He falls off a bike. They can show that for hours and make, it's because, if he was leaning to the right, the Secret Service, let's watch it slow, and Canada loves that stuff. We love watching it. As for in Canada, the division, it is different. We're not going out into the streets and smashing things, and like there are protests, but a protest in Canada is more we're going to stand around and we're going to chant, and then we're going to say thank you very much and we're going to leave. In most cases in Canada, they listen to the police. When the police ask them to move back, they'll move back. It's just a different system, but our politics are very similar now. It wasn't like that when you go back 10 years ago. It was about policy, it was about finances, it was about taking care of your family. Now it's all about, as soon as we get close, it's about our natives. Natives become huge. They want, everyone wants to help natives when there's an election. Everyone wants to help the LGBT. I'm sorry, I don't know it all. I apologize to anyone out there listening. I just don't know it. I'm an old man. I'm sorry. But, but we should be dealing with that stuff all the time, not just when it's convenient. So we have talking points. And then what happens is that there's a social media frenzy where everyone in Canada starts yelling at each other politely and have all these arguments. And then people forget that the problem is, and Pat can attest to this, the problem is the way our government is handling our money right now. It is a terrible time to be spending the amount of money that we spend. And I am a social guy. I believe in welfare. I believe that we should help, help homeless people. I believe that we should have free dental care. I believe that we should have free health care. But there's a time and a place. Yeah. There are times when we're fat. It's just like at home. So when I have a fat month, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go to the restaurant. I'm going to go to the Keg, which is a great steak place up here. I don't know if they have it in the States. But when it's not, I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to buy all my food. And Canada has stopped doing that recently. They just seem to keep on doing this payout thing, which I'm behind. But you have to do it in a planned way, because if you don't, we're going to be broken. It's not good right now. We can't just keep printing money. But Pat's better at this. He can attest to that part.
Our systems are very different. So our election platforms, like James is talking about, go through these cycles of like kind of boom and bust social equality things. So every 4 years we dust off whatever the cause is of this one. The last one, like James said, was our native communities, which last time we looked have been about 200 years in Canada underrepresented and sort of battered and abused. But
we have reservations that don't have clean water still.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so for us, you guys had George Floyd the last election cycle, right? So that hyped up a whole frenzy around what that looked like. So ours is different. Like, we don't have George Floyd, right? Our system is very different, but we have our own social constructs. But we don't vote for a prime minister. Like, we don't vote for Justin Trudeau. Our system is very different. We have an old British parliamentary system, which is you vote for a party. So you vote locally for an individual who represents a party, and then that person becomes a seat in the House of Commons. And that's, like the Senate or the Congress, kind of like that for you guys. And then whoever makes up the most in that group, then they make up the government. And whoever the head of that party is now your prime minister. That's why we can't get rid of Justin Trudeau. Nobody likes him.
Yeah.
He's not well enjoyed. It's that he is just the leader of the party that gets the most votes. Like Donald Trump, like him, love him, whatever your viewpoint is, doesn't matter. He is not the Republican Party. You can say that he is now, maybe, and probably more so over the last, couple years than ever before. But when Reagan ran, Reagan was a Republican. He wasn't the Republican Party. Bill Clinton was a Democrat. He wasn't the Democrat Party. Our problem here is that once we get our politicians are sort of like lice. You can't get rid of them because they just dig in, and they get saved by the party. So politically, we have Justin Trudeau, who is not popular, who has brought a lot of really weird and fiscally irresponsible policies that has put the middle class in Canada, I would argue, even vastly behind the American middle class for the first time in probably 70 or 80 years. You need to take into account like our healthcare, our benefits, or that sort of thing, our social constructs that we pay out the nose for. They're not accessible. They're not high quality, and they're not to the level that we have enjoyed for the last 75 years. And that is sort of the roost, the chicken coming to roost for sort of overly socialist policies. And then massive spending during the last 4 years of COVID. It's been wild.
Well, at least you guys have a channel out there trying to help people, like you said, be aware of these things, do something else to bring in extra income, multiple streams of income. But I think that's why we got along so well. Like, I think if you guys remember when I was on your channel, I kind of talked about why I woke up a little bit, right? Like why my eyes opened up and kind of saw what was going on around me and took the blinders off. And I think that's kind of the same thing, relating to your folks' channel and whatnot, what your message is. But yeah, we got to do this again, man. I love it. I love your guys' connection together. I love, you guys say you hate each other, but I don't know. I think you guys, that's just for show, I think.
You got to get something people can search up, right? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah.
No. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure, pal. Loved having you on Financial Fitness. For those of you that haven't had a chance to check it out yet, go back. I think it's about the 4th or 5th video back in Financial Fitness. Check Mark out. He did a great job. For us, Soaring Prophets, PROPHETS, as in you're being prophetic, but it's also got that kind of bottom line profit ring about it too. So it was kind of a little play on words because we're a couple of quirky Canadians and have some fun doing it.
I messed up on that a little bit when I tagged you folks one time. I was like, shit, it's not. That's why I might have sent it and then erased it real quick and I caught it. But yeah.
There you go.
All right. Thanks for doing this, guys. Yeah, we'll do it again.
When we first started branding, sorry, this will be the last thing. When we first started branding, we went with Soaring Prophets, and we kind of got deep into it when people started going, "So are you religious?" And we're like, "Well, yeah, we're religious, but that's not what our show is about." And then it was, so is it all about profits? And no, it's not. It's about your whole person, like because we have the theory that I'm a big motivator guy. I believe your mind, body, soul. Your mind has to be right, your soul has to be right, and your body has to be right. And if you have those three things right, then you're going to have a happy life. But if you don't have the financial piece, then you can't have the fun that you need to have. And you can't have that, like you're not going to the gym if you don't have the finances. You're not going to join a marathon if you don't have the finances. You're not going to travel the world, right? So you have to have all those 4 things. And that's what we promote mostly, is that those 4 things. And that's what's important. I think.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, we'll do it again. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Take care.